Welcome back to the SAHMA Exchange, a podcast where policy, people, and property management meets. Today's episode, we're bringing you another conversation recorded live at the 2025 SAHMA Leadership Conference. My guest is Glenda Leduc, president of Mansermar Management, a company that oversees 65 affordable housing communities for seniors across 14 states. With decades of experience spanning accounting, property management, asset management, and affordable housing finance, Glenda has helped preserve and strengthen communities through LIHTC developments, HUD programs, and countless rehabilitation projects. She brings a unique perspective on both the business and mission of affordable housing. But like so many leaders in this industry, Glenda didn't set out to build a career in affordable housing. In fact, her journey began in public accounting before an unexpected opportunity changed the direction of her career. So I started our conversation by asking her a simple question. How did you first get involved in affordable housing? Here's our conversation.
Well, I am actually a CPA, and so I had my focus group of clients was real estate and not-for-profit. And so a lot of my clients were in various aspects of real estate, construction, development, management, and some did affordable and some did conventional. And so that was kind of how it started. And so the process that I came into it as one of my clients was Mansermar Incorporated, and they were doing some planning of what do we transition look like, for the previous president that they had. And so I was really doing some estate planning and some, business, what does this transition look like? And just talked with the owners of the company and trying to find someone who could come in and step in the role that they were looking for. And that's not easy, especially when you have a lot of, senior level staff that they really didn't feel would meet that position. And so as we were going through that process, one day I was talking with the owner and he said, I've been praying about this and only God just keeps bringing one person to my mind. And I was like, oh, well, good. Well, who is it? And he said, well, it's you. And I was like, okay, that is not something I've thought about, So I don't even know quite how to respond to that. So anyway, I said, let me go back, talk to my partners, because I was a partner, I had my own CPA firm, and said, let me just really seek out, what it is that really God wants me to do with this. And so that process took probably a year or so, just working through that process and saying, and just really considering, and really, regardless of what profession we're in, it all comes down to people. And that we're doing something. That's what I was doing, in the business arena, in consulting, in auditing, and taxes, and all of those things. It really was about the client. It was about the people that you serve. And the affordable housing industry is no different than that. It's about the people that we serve. And so really saying it's just different and, hey, I know all these regulations. That's what I do. And especially if you're looking at low-income housing tax credits, if you're looking at HUD regulations, if you're looking at other governmental regulations, as far as consulting, the agreements with the lenders and investors, I dealt with all those people and clients that had all those people. So it just seemed that the position was suited to what my background was, and the owner's vision for the company really lined up with what my vision was, which is really to create excellent communities that thrive for everyone, for our staff, for our residents, and so it was just a good fit.
I think we can all appreciate that Glenda's path into affordable housing wasn't something she planned. It started with a client relationship from her days in a public accounting, a business owner who says he couldn't shake the feeling that Glenda was the right person for his leadership role. What really stood out to me, though, was what happened after she accepted the job. She quickly realized that, at its heart, affordable housing is all about people. Her passion for creating communities where residents can truly thrive aligned perfectly with the vision of Mansermar's ownership. So that got me wondering, after all these years in the industry, what continues to motivate her to do this work every day?
Really is. It's what I tell my staff every day. It's like I said, it's about the people. And whether you're processing invoices, whether you're reviewing documents, or whether I'm on the front line talking to you about something that's happened in your life today, it's about the people. You don't get up in the morning and process invoices because you love processing invoices. That's not the point of it. And so even at our corporate office, we have pictures of our residents and of our staff that are what we call on the front lines, because whatever we're doing, that's who it's about. And we don't want you to ever forget that that's what it's about. It's about the people that we serve. Quite often, and I think a lot of times, especially in affordable housing, there's a stigma that's there of, oh, well, what did they do that put themselves in this position? But until you've sat down and until you've listened to the stories and you think, there I could be, there, it's really hearing those things and realizing that you're able to make a difference in their life and that everyone deserves a home, and how foundational that is to you to be able to do other things. You know, we're so fortunate when we have that, and for us to have the ability to offer that opportunity of others. It's like I tell my staff, I go home every day and I sleep really good at night, not because I reviewed this document or I was able to get this return or this through or something happened. It's those stories of life change that where people have come and said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have this. You don't know the difference that it's made in my life. And it's just about being able to provide that foundation that they can then build on to make their lives better and to build connections with others too. Because quite often, you know, maybe they're coming where they've been in a different environment. Maybe they've been homeless. Maybe they were isolated, whatever it is. But to create those community environments where they can thrive and have the support of others who may have been there, who may have been in different situations, but to help them grow stronger and better together.
One theme kept coming up throughout our conversation: people. For Glenda, it's the residents and their stories that continue to fuel her passion for this work. She believes everyone deserves a safe, quality place to call home. And she shared how taking the time to truly know residents quickly breaks down the misconceptions so many people have about affordable housing. That idea of stigma once again caught my attention. We hear it often in this industry and a lot on this podcast, but I wanted to know what it looks like on the ground for Glenda. Is the stigma surrounding affordable housing something her teams have to overcome? And if so, how do they change those perceptions?
Typically do not come in with that stigma. They really are coming in and saying, how can I help people? And so, but you are absolutely right, and probably something that I deal with more at my level, maybe than my staff does, especially if we're going into an affluent community who desire more affluence to be there. And so it doesn't matter that we may have a great product and that we can show that and show what we're able to achieve and show that these people deserve it. And to be quite honest, those communities need it, because in order for the community to thrive, you need people in every walk of life. And so they need that, but enlightening them on the fact that, number one, it's not going to destroy the community, but in really the opposite, it could strengthen the community. There's opportunities that are offered for people even in the community to see things that maybe they've never experienced and to really change the community's life. So what we try to focus on is we want our properties to be, we say, the light of the community, to make a difference in the community. And even when you're not going into affluent areas, quite often, sometimes the properties are located in areas that we say are somewhat in bondage to, whether it be drugs, alcohol, gang, whatever those things are, that you see, maybe because of lack of employment or things that exist, and just the access to being able to get to things that you may take for granted that's simple, like grocery stores that aren't overpriced or things because the one that is there is, so localized and it's the only one, so they can overcharge, or just those simple things that you take for granted, is looking at, okay, we need to create this community that can show that, but can be a building block. Let's offer programs that not only can the people in our community that exist benefit from, but the overall community as well. But there are times that those struggles are real and they're difficult, and it takes a lot of education and trying to overcome the beliefs of people and what they've heard or seen from someone else without giving you the opportunity to say, this experience can be different.
Glenda was quick to point out that the stigma isn't something that discourages her teams. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The people who choose to work in affordable housing are usually passionate about serving others, and they understand that strong communities depend on quality, affordable housing. She also said something that really stuck with me. She told me that Mansermar wants each of its properties to be the light of the community that they're in. I love that phrase, so I wanted to dig a little deeper. What does it actually look like in practice? How do you become the light of the community, not just for your residents, but for the neighborhoods you serve?
Practical ways. What we try to do is have programs that are at the community, that we invite the residents to have their family, to have their friends, and open those up to the overall community, whether it be, a fall festival, whether it be a birthday party, or whatever it might be. We do a lot of senior communities, and so a lot of times our things are senior related, but to try to involve the community. Like at one community, I know we had a clothing store in the community, and we got them to come in, but allow our residents to do a fashion show. But to have that then in the papers, we had another community in another area where we had a senior prom. A lot of our residents didn't have the ability to go to their own senior prom, had never had a prom dress or dressed up in a suit. And so they're residents that are generally 70 and older. And so this was the very first time, but to get local businesses who would come in, and they provided those dresses for them because they couldn't go out and do it, and to have someone, so to give the community the opportunity to participate in that, but then to bring that in. One of the other things that we're looking at is when we go into development too, is as you're talking to the community development department there, is if there's not that industry, are there ways that we could connect to help them think about what are industries that they could bring in that might be beneficial, that would offer an opportunity for people to better their lives, so that they're not having to pull on all the subsidies that are there and to pull on all the programs. But if there's no opportunities available, then what can they have to look forward to? So be in discussions with them. Sure, we aren't the ones, and they've got to reach out to those businesses, but consider tax incentives maybe that they can offer. So a lot of times it's conversations about those things, but just a variety of tactics. And we always want to think outside of the box and say, what more can we do to really be a part of the community? And so it's different in every area, depending on what those communities offer and what those programs are that exist.
As Glenda shared story after story, it became clear that being the light of the community isn't just a slogan at Mansermar. It's fall festivals that bring neighbors together, birthday celebrations for residents, senior proms, clothing closets, partnerships with local businesses, and ongoing conversations with community leaders. It's constantly asking one simple question: what more can we do? Listening to those examples, I couldn't help but think about how much the affordable housing industry has evolved. Today's management companies do so much more than manage apartments. They're creating connections, building partnerships, and helping residents thrive. So I asked Glenda why. Why has providing resident services become such an important part of what affordable housing management companies do?
One of the key things is because the needs are there. Typically, if you're in affordable housing, you've had various things that have happened in your life, and whether it's just the fact that you're a senior and back in the day you didn't make that much money, and even though you worked really hard, it took everything you made to survive. And so now you're at a point in your life that you can't work and you need affordable housing to be able to have housing so that you're not homeless or whatever. But there's a lot of things that come with that as aging that maybe they don't have access to, that someone who has more means, you just bring in those resources that you need. But so it's connecting them too with those resources, because quite often those resources are out there, but they don't know how to access them. So it's to provide that training, it's to provide that knowledge of what it is, and even to integrate within the community. Things that impact you physically and your health too is important, whether it's mental health or whether it's physical health. Just simple things as far as knowing how to eat healthy, things that you take for granted. This service piece and having either that individual provide those services or bringing in those specialists who will come in and talk about that, and just have a cooking class to say, hey, if you cook this way, it can still have taste, but it has less salt, and that's good for you health-wise. And so that enables you from not only a physical but a mental standpoint, because we all need connection. And so making those connections and being able to get out, after COVID, I think we're seeing just within our general population, but particularly in affordable communities, fear, isolation, and those are things that you've got to get outside of. And so having that service piece to help them realize that, recognize that, and realize that there are resources out there available to help you through those things.
Glenda's answer really came back to one word: connection. She explained that residents often arrive with different life experiences and different needs, and while housing provides stability, it's the relationships and sense of community that help people truly flourish. As she put it, we all need connections. That emphasis on connection doesn't stop at the property level. It's also reflected in the way Glenda invests in the affordable housing industry itself. So I asked her why it's been so important for her to stay involved with SAHMA and what that involvement has meant throughout her career.
I've been involved, obviously, since I became the president of Mansermar, so for 15 years. But even before that, kind of from the vendor side, involved, from a different perspective, but as a property management company. And it is just critical, because when you're out there providing these services, it is important to meet with other professionals, other industry who share the same vision that you do. Because when you share the same vision, then you're able to have a greater voice to speak out and to say, hey, these are what the needs are. These are the things that we're seeing. And just the peer-to-peer knowledge that you get for saying, hey, we're struggling within our organization. What are you guys doing? In fact, I was just eating lunch, and we were just talking. There was 4 of us from different companies around the table, and just talking about some of the struggles that you're seeing and how you have to pivot, because what was true 15 years ago isn't true today. And so it's addressing those challenges together, because if you do it in an isolated environment, you can't be as impactful. And so as an organization, it helps you take your challenges and opportunities, because there's tremendous opportunities that we have available, but to come and to be a bigger voice together, to make, to meet with those regulators, to meet with those investors, to meet with the communities that are there to say, this is something that's real and it needs to be addressed, and how can we address it together to make it better? Also, one of the significant things that I think that's important about SAHMA, that's true from an overall and business perspective, but for my employees, from the people that are at the site level too, to get them engaged, because quite often we have communities, like I said, we manage in 14 different states, so around not only the region but across the Sun Belt, but sometimes they're in very different communities, and even though they talk within others within our organization, sometimes you get the feeling that you're isolated. Well, maybe this is just how we do it and other people aren't experiencing that. So when they come to SAHMA events and conferences and education and training, training, they're meeting with others within different organizations, but that are in their industry, and they're able to share stories and realize and recognize they're encountering the same things that I'm encountering. What do you do when I have a resident that needs a dog, but this dog is barking and, disturbing their neighbor, and I've discussed it with them and they haven't done anything about it? And I know that sounds simple, but there's so many things. That's an insignificant thing, it may seem like, but it can become a big thing. And just being able to talk with others and recognizing that you're not in a vacuum. And then they build those relationships. Relationships are critical. You strengthen those by continuing to be a part of the organization and by growing, but it also allows you to build new relationships. And sometimes those are with people that are like you. Sometimes they're with people that are very different than you. And that expands your horizon and enables you to grow and to excel. And the other thing that it does, because it is a volunteer organization, is it gives our employees the opportunity to serve within that organization, which is a little bit different environment. They go and they serve their residents every day, but they can serve and they can grow their leadership capabilities so that they can move up within our organization and to recognize, I was looking at it from this view, but they hear someone who's looking at it from a different view that I didn't consider that before. And so it really gives them a breadth of knowledge and experience that they can use themselves to grow and become a better individual.
As you might expect, Glenda's answer once again centered on people. She talked about the value of surrounding yourself with professionals who share the same mission, learning from one another's experiences, and building relationships that make all of us better at serving our residents. She also emphasized that SAHMA isn't just an investment in her own professional growth, it's an investment in her entire team. That naturally led to my next question. Beyond the networking and relationships, SAHMA is known for the education it provides throughout the year. So I asked Glenda just how important that training has been for both her and the people she leads.
It is really critical. We do some internal training, we bring trainers in, but it is a great benefit because there are just a number of courses, the conferences, the webinars, the individual education, and SAHMA is so willing to listen to its members. So even if we needed some specific training that they have access to, that will customize and individualize that training for us. And especially with being in multi-state like we are, it is so great. And it's great because sometimes we can send our whole team members so that they're able to get together, which they don't do on a regular basis necessarily because we are spread out. And so they get to not only visit with each other, but to gain training while they're doing that. It's not just those specific courses, but just the SAHMA updates and, the monthly letters that say, hey, these are the new regulations that come out. Sure, we send blasts, but those blasts reinforce what we've sent out, and they think, well, this isn't just important for us, but this is kind of coming with everyone else. And when there are new things that have to be implemented too, is those challenges of implementing those new regulations and how is your company handling it? And so they're able to not only learn, but gain that feedback and come back and say, hey, have we considered this? Let's have a brainstorming session to talk about these are the new regulations, or these are the existing regulations that have been there for years, but this is a way that I had not thought about it. So how can we take these things and we can grow on those?
The value of SAHMA's education is simple for Glenda. She says it's critical. Managing communities across multiple states means regulations are constantly changing, and ongoing training helps ensure her teams stay informed, compliant, and equipped to serve residents well. As our conversation came to a close, I wanted to end where we began, with people. After so many years in affordable housing and countless residents whose lives have intersected with hers, I asked Glenda if there was one story or experience that has stayed with her over the years, one that captures why this work matters so much.
I don't know that there's one story. There's many stories, I guess. So to try to identify one is difficult, but I guess One particular one comes to mind, and this was an individual. This was at a senior property, and an individual of a lady that came up, and she had recently moved into the property, so she hadn't been there. And a lot of our residents in our senior properties are long-time residents, and so they've been there for years. We're very grateful, thankful that we have great properties that once they move in, they want to stay. And so we had a community event, and I happened to be at the community event that day, and was just sharing with, a lot of the other residents. And after the event, she came up to me and she said, "I just want to tell you how thankful I am to be here." And this happened to be the first time that I'd met her because she was fairly new in the community. She said this was after the financial collapse had really happened, and a lot of people lost a lot of money, and she had at that point had a lot of money and had never thought that she was going to be in affordable housing. But with the collapse in the investments that she had in her IRA, suddenly she found herself with no money. And so she couldn't afford to live on her own. And she had had to move back in with her family, which they were delighted to have her and wanted her to be there. But she felt like she was a failure because of that. And she thought that she would never be able to, even though she had worked hard her entire life. She had diligently done the things that were necessary to be able to live on her own and not have to rely on her family. And yet this was a position that she found herself in. And so she had been with them a number of years. And she said, especially I talked about the stigma in affordable housing, and a lot of the communities that she had been to were not communities that she felt comfortable living in. And she said, "I found this community," and she said, "I cannot believe how nice it is and what it's like." She said, "I feel like I'm living in a 5-star hotel." She said, just the surroundings, and she said, it's something that I can afford and that I can be able to do and be on my own, and yet it's got a beautiful community center. It's got people that care about each other. There are programs that you're offering here and things that we can participate in. And it's something that I really never thought would be possible and never thought I'd have to avail myself of. She said, "But I am so grateful, and I want you to know that we appreciate everything that you do, that your staff does every day. They come in here with a smiling face. And I know, because I've heard some of the complaints and things that, it just seemed like, why would you continue to do this?" She said, "But I want you to know that I so appreciate that you do this." And it just makes all the difference in the world, because you recognize, like I said, it could be me, it could be you. We never know what's going to happen in our life that's going to change the trajectory of where we find ourselves. And so that's important to recognize that and to realize that everybody needs to be treated as if they're a child of the King, because they are, regardless of what their circumstances are, regardless of where they've come from. They deserve to be loved and to be treated like a child of the King. And so that just gives me the vision to continue to do the things that I really want to do, because we can make a difference in the lives of others, but they can make a difference in our life as well.
As that story that Glenda just told us reminds us, affordable housing isn't about labels, it's about people. Life can change in an instant, and circumstances that once seemed unimaginable can become reality for any of us. The work of affordable housing is making sure that when those moments come, people still have a safe, welcoming place to call home. A big thank you to Glenda Leduc for sharing her story and perspective on today's episode, and to SAHMA for making conversations like this possible every year at the Leadership Conference. If you enjoyed this episode of the SAHMA Exchange, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd appreciate it if you'd leave us a rating or review. It helps more housing professionals discover the show. Thanks for listening to the SAHMA Exchange, a podcast where policy, people, and property management meets. We'll see you next time.